90% of my life I lived a double life. You know, I had two parallel lives going. I was listening to a pastor who he kind of had a similar start, but he likened it to being like the moon. You know, we only see one side of the moon. You know, we see the moon that's bright and nice, and you know, everybody looks at it. You know, and then you have the dark side of the moon that nobody's ever seen. You know, you can't see it. It's pitch black at start. You know, that's how I was. I had the light side of my life that everybody saw, and then I had the dark side that, you know, nobody saw. I started going to church at Black Rock Baptist when I was 2. You know, I was raised in church. You know, grew up there with my mom. You know, she was the head of the children's committee. Is that better? She was head of the children's committee, so I mean, she taught Sunday school. She was my Sunday school teacher, you know, from 2 to 4. You know, her and my aunt. Basically, we were at church every time the doors were open. You know, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday evenings, Fridays or Saturdays during the summers if they had the fish fries or the ice cream socials or the softball game with the hot dogs. You know, that was my life. I mean, I was there every time the doors were open. I was one of the kids known, you know, he's such a sweet little angel. You know, and it was kind of true in the beginning. You know, wasn't too bad a kid growing up, but I also had the life with my dad every other weekend, you know, where you know, we'd go hang out and go to they had a pool bar about a mile from my dad's house. We used to go there a lot and go fishing. You know, basically just went and had fun. You know, wasn't any kind of rules laid out. You know, obviously don't break nothing. You know, you break a window, you know, well, they got to whip you because they're gonna get mad if they don't. But you know, mostly just we went and had fun. You know, around 7, 8 years old, you know, is when I got my first taste of beer. You know, we were out fishing, you know, I grabbed one of my dad's, you know, top, took a sip, and he said, well, that's yours now, I don't want it. So every time after that, you know, he's like, well, you ain't drinking mine, you're gonna have your own. So as long as you're doing it around me, it's fine, you know, but only around me, you know, don't tell your mama. You know, so I never told my mama, because, you know, I wanted to keep having fun, you know. And it wasn't ever anything bad on the weekends, maybe 1 beer, 2 beers, but I mean, obviously, you know, it was, you know, bad enough. I'm an 8-year-old trying to drink beer. But around that same time, and I didn't remember this until, you know, probably about a year ago, but one of the elder gentlemen from our church that I used to go hang out with pretty much every day after school at the time, molested me. I don't remember exact details. I remember we were going to go to the store, and you know, okay, you know, like I said, we were friends, but we met every day. You know, played his computer games, stuff like that. Helped sit with his mom. You know, his mom was real sick at the time, and then all I remember is that you know, we're going to go to the store. And I remember driving in the car, and then all I really remember of the incident is blackness and screaming. And so it took me a little bit to kind of reconcile with that. You know, even though it's been well over 20 years ago, you know, it still was, you know, something painful that I had to deal with. You know, I had to let go of. I mean, that's one thing I talked about last week. You know, I've been working on release over this past month, and that was something pretty hard to release. As I got a little older, you know, I started doing a little more with my dad on the weekends. You know, we'd go fishing, or like I said, we'd go to the pool hall or bowling, you know, something anywhere, you know, hanging out with uncles. You know, started tasting a little bit of liquor, you know, had a little bit of pot, and then my dad started doing he'd get headaches, so he said. He started doing aspirin, is what he called it. And his aspirin, he would sit on the table on a little mirror and chop up and snort through his nose. That was the only way it worked. So I remember one night, him and my brother were, you know, sacked out, and he had left a little bit on the mirror, and pissed off that a little bit, but, you know, I was about 10 years old. But it started from there, you know. My dad started, I wouldn't really say dealing, he wasn't like dealing to a bunch of people. I mean, he sold to a few friends, stuff like that, but I remember one point, we rode down into the crack, down into the honey hole, and, you know, pitch black, one street light, can't really see. He left me in the car, went into the house to, you know, get his stuff. You know, I'm sitting out there and waiting. These guys walking around, starting to get a little scared. And then they start coming up to the car, you know, beating on the window, trying to get in, asking me for money, asking me for drugs. And, you know, basically I was terrified. You know, didn't know these guys, scared, Daddy wasn't around. And eventually he'd come back out of the house, come running down the steps, chase those guys off, but that kind of set me up for knowing fear, so to speak. And, you know, I told my dad that. He was like, I was afraid, I was scared, you weren't here. And he apologized, never happened again. And then, you know, there's another time that they left me at the house so him and my brother could go, you know, score some acid, a couple other things. So I was at home with, I don't remember what the dog was, it was just a mutt. A little tiny dog, mean dog, though. Loved us, hated everybody else. So I was sitting there with the dog, and my dad lived out in the woods in the trailer. I just kept hearing these noises. He says, I'm already scared, you know, little kid. So I'm cuddled up with the dog, and I grabbed the biggest knife I could out of the drawer, and I'm walking around with the dog, and I'm holding the knife, and I hear a noise, and I'm looking, and then turning the dog this way. What is it? What is it? What do you hear? And I made me a burger or something. I made something that was out of the fridge. I heated it up, but I spilled ketchup all over the floor. But you know, I ate my food, I'm walking around. I got so scared. All these noises kept happening. My uncle lived right down the hill from us, so I called him and was like, "Dad ain't home yet. I'm really scared. Can I come down there and sleep until he gets back?" He's like, "Yeah, come on." So I went down there and I left the knife on the floor and took the dog with me, you know, just to be safe in case somebody was going to try to get me going down the driveway. And my brother and them got back home, both of them tripping, and my brother thought I was dead because there's ketchup on the floor and there's a knife laying next to it. So he thought somebody come in and killed me, and the dog went off. But you know, my uncle called him, told him I was down there, and they came in there, woke me up, and you know, carried me back up the hill to the house. But that was about the time I started resenting, I guess is the best word, a lot of things, you know. I was always kind of getting left behind, you know, unless my brother wasn't there, and then, you know, we'd go do something, we'd go fishing, but it was always kind of a, just sit there and be quiet, you're gonna scare the fish. You know, sit there, smoke a cigarette, drink a beer, you know, just be quiet. All right? I ain't catching nothing. And I don't know about y'all, any little kid, you take fishing, it's gonna be trying to cast out, reel in, catching chicken all the time, trying to see if you got fish. But it wasn't maybe 4th or 5th grade, I think my dad finally, he moved back in with us for a little while. And I think it was about the longest time he made it with us. You know, they had tried a few times, and you know, he'd go back to drinking, they leave, and he'd come back, and so on and so forth. But when he moved back in with us, he was different. He was a lot more serious, I guess I could say. And I mean, that's a good thing, because he got back into church, he got into a Sunday school class, he was studying his Bible every day. You know, him and Mom were getting along, we were so on and so forth getting along. You know, we'd still go out and fish, stuff like that, but it was still kind of the same thing. It was kind of despondent, you know. Having a holler out for you right now. He just wasn't the same though. What my daddy went off and had fun with. He was, you know, more serious daddy. And you know, he'd sit out on the porch, smoke a cigarette, and you know, watch the birds. You know, he ended up doing the garden. He'd go out there and spend all day in the garden after he got home from work. I mean, never really saw him. And, my brother at the time, we were hanging out, 12, 13 years old, me and all my friends and his friends from the youth group at church, we do camp outs on the weekends. And, when we went and camped out, we camped out in a little pasture down the road that, one of his granddaddy owned. And, we'd camp out there on Fridays, or we'd go out behind our house, camp out, but we'd all be out there drinking, smoking, doing whatever. And then, getting up every weekend, going to church on Sunday and singing in the youth choir, doing our plays, just nothing to me. I didn't find nothing wrong with it, but, obviously there was something wrong with it, somebody say something, or something happened. And I lived my life that way for a long time, like I said, that was the other side of me. But during that time, I just felt a shame for some reason. It's like I was feeling a lot of shame. And I felt a lot of weakness. And I felt fear all the time. I didn't know why. I was like, why am I feeling this way? I'm having fun, I'm doing a little bit. And if my mom catches me, gosh, she's going to kill me. But it wasn't a bad thing, but it came to me, this just came to me last week. Around 14 years old, ninth grade school, I was a nerdy kid in school. I was a quiet, nerdy kid. I was a smart kid. Everybody tried to cheat off of. There was a upperclassman who had been held behind that had a class with me. We had a big test. He tried to cheat off me, told him no, and kind of covered everything up. And he kept pushing me. I was like, no, like, it ain't my fault you're stupid. Well, ended up. We had gym class the same period too, and he used to pick on me all the time. But this day, he cornered me in the locker room, and we were all alone. Nobody else was in there. And for years, I had the memory of he pushed me down, and I got up, and I heard him, called him in between the legs. I heard him, knocked him down, beat him up, and I won the fight. He left me alone. This past week, the true memory came up, and didn't win the fight. He pinned me against the wall, yanked my shorts down, and raped me. So there's where a lot of that shame was coming from, all that fear, all that weakness. And I fought that all this week. And I'll surely know that's not really what happened. Surely God, no. I'm just, devil's messing with me. No, that never happened. And the more I fought it, the stronger it got. And it broke me this past week. And I couldn't deal with it. I've been working on releasing stuff, and I'm like, I can't get past this. I'm still arguing with it. I won't argue with it. But towards that, after all this had happened, I went home and, just kind of blocked everything out, apparently. But, as I got a little older, my dad started getting, kind of abusive. As you got older, when my dad was growing up, from what I heard from him and his brothers, is when they turned 16, their dad would take them out in the yard and just beat the teetotal crap out of them and, show them his man work in the house. And he started trying to do that to me and my brother, and we just kind of laughed at him like, no. He wanted to be the strict daddy, the serious daddy, and we just, no. You don't get to party with us all those years and, give us drugs and let us do whatever, and then try to turn around and be, strict, and you're gonna go do all that. And that turned into, hitting and slapping, a little bit of choking. My brother normally got the worst of it until he moved out, and it kind of hit double on me. Every time that always happened, I'd go to my room, bury myself under the pillow, and just, cry from anger. And, my mom would come there and check on me. She'd talk to my dad, and then it'd get better for a little while, and then, it'd go back to it. You know, remember the last time it happened, you know, he had me pinned down to the floor, choking me, punched me in the face, you know, for some stupid reason. I was like, next time you want to hit me like a man. And that made him even worse. And he got me up and, you know, slapped me, and all I could think of was, I'm about to put you through the sliding glass door and beat your brains in with this baseball bat. But he finally stopped, you know, and I did whatever he wanted me to do and went in my room and laid down. You know, my mama came home, she automatically knew something had happened. And I actually had a fair amount of bruises and red marks at that time, so that was the last time he touched me. My mom told him, if you touch me again, you're going, and I'll kill you. And that was about, I think I might have been 16, 17. You know, I was a man. He went there to do 17. But about that time, middle ways through school, right before I graduated, my dad left my mom for another woman, a lot younger woman. And I pulled up from school that day, and Mom's out there in the yard just crying on her knees. What's going on? Walked in the door, and here's that woman and my dad kind of standing next to her, and all he says is, go check on his mom. I already knew what was happening. And walked back in the room, threw my book bag down, and I always kept my baseball bag. I had all my baseball stuff right by the door. I was real close picking up that bat, come back around the corner, and just laying into it. But didn't. I walked out, and my aunt and uncle were coming down to get my mom and taking her up to their house. So I drove and got my brother from work, and you know, we come tearing back, just ready to do some business. But he was already gone by the time we got back there, which I think is a good thing. And I still look back on that day, and you know, there's times I wish I had picked up that bat, but I'm glad I didn't. But from all that, you know, I've developed a really bad sense of anger. You know, towards 16, 17, you know, I put on a little weight, put on a little muscle. I've been framing, hauling hay, doing, you know, farm work since 13, you know, every summer from school. You know, so you know, I didn't let nobody mess with me then. I had all that anger boiled up inside of me, so you know, I used to pick fights then. You know, I got tired of people messing with me. So I stepped right up to him. You're gonna leave me alone. You've been messing with me since middle school. I'm tired of it. You're gonna leave me alone. And I always thought about the nastiest, meanest way to hurt somebody, to make sure they were gonna leave me alone. I had that much anger inside of me from all the years. You know, it's like I took it from Dad, I took it from my brother, I took it from everybody else. I'm done. And I started carrying knives around in my pockets. You know, so I was like, touch me, I'm gonna kill you. And it came down to it one day. I was over at a friend's house, and of course he's got the bratty little brother who thought he was big and bad. We were wrestling, and ended up, you know, kind of falling into some furniture. And they had a mean dog, mean old dog. I mean, it bites you and wouldn't let go, but they had gotten kind of used to me. But the second that happened, the dog come tearing out of the room, latched into me. And I finally got the dog off, and he's laughing at me, and just in a rage, I started chasing around the house. I'm chasing him. His brother's trying to stop me. We get around to the front door, he runs inside, slams the door. You know, his brother's got a hold of me by then, and I'm just cussing up a storm. Like, I'm gonna kill him. Tell him to come back out here, I'm gonna kill him. And he comes back out the door, laughs, says something, I don't remember what, spits right in my face. And I got both knives out of my pockets, already had them out and ready, and I lunged at him. And his brother got in the way in between us and stopped me. And didn't really calm me down, but he ended up getting me to put him away. And I went home. And then I got a call about an hour later when his mama got home, and you know, I had to go over and apologize. And I ain't going over there and apologize. Mama said, you're gonna go over there and apologize. If I got Greg over there himself, you're gonna go over there. So I kind of went over there and apologized, but you know, it's just full of anger. You know, still not really knowing why. I'm like, yeah, I got beat on, got bullied. You know, I know where the anger's coming from, but you know, where's all this? Still feeling this shame weakness, like I never felt strong enough. You know, I felt like I always needed something. You know, either had to have a weapon or, you know, somebody else with me. You know, this went on for years, and I ended up starting to do drugs, harder drugs. Went to doing a lot of partying and stuff, and you know, because of all this stuff that had happened, you know, I started doing harder and harder drugs, more and more drugs, and it got to where I don't want to be around anymore. So every time I went to a friend's house, I tried every time to OD. I tried to OD, do more and more and more and more, harder, and that never worked. I remember I'd wake up from leaving my buddy's house, wake up at the house and still be fine. I'd be mad. Like, I tried, I'm gonna try again. So I started popping my pills, you know, I'd separate my shoulder, started popping pills, so I started taking more and more pills, and then found out where I could get them on the cheap, and just kept trying to get them, and I ended up where I started taking, you know, 2-3 handfuls of pills at one time, and drink as much liquor as I could, and wake back up at the house the next day. Then I started, you know, driving. So I'm like, well, since obviously I can't OD and this stuff ain't working, I'm just gonna drive home, whatever, and maybe I'll just crash and die somewhere. And I wake up at the house every day. Like, it got to the point where I was just screaming at God, you know, why will you not let me die? Like, that's all I want. Why won't you let me die? And it went on like that until about 25. I was coming home, I'd been drinking, I had 240 sitting in the truck beside me, and you know, couldn't bring alcohol in the house. And my mom's like, fine, you're gonna do it, you ain't gonna bring it in the house. So I was sitting there in the church parking lot, drinking my beer, well beyond wasted, and I half, you know, stumbled up to the church steps, tried to get in, and stupidly, and it was closed on the weekend. Just sat on the steps and just started talking. I'm tired of this. I don't live like this anymore. Like, I don't know where all this is coming from. I don't know why you've allowed these things to happen to me, but I need help. You know, the old, you take this away and I'll do better promise. And I went to church to run sound that Sunday, and don't remember what was preached on, don't remember the song, but it hit me. But I was white knuckling the sound booth the entire time. You know, I got to run sound, I can't go down there and pray. And that night, the same thing. Don't remember what was preached. My cousin sang that night. I don't remember the song, but I started at the same time. I was, I got to run sound, just in case the preacher needs his mic turned back on. I got to be back here. And then next thing I know, I was down at the altar. My brother said I couldn't run down the aisle. And, you know, I gave my life to God that night. And I was doing good for a little while, you know. Went and shared my testimony. My aunt was doing Wednesday nights at the time with the youth, and she asked me to come to share my testimony, so I did. Took me two Wednesday nights to do it, because I didn't know nothing about testimony at the time, so I just and, you know, blurting out my entire life, basically. But it was after that I started teaching Wednesday nights, because my aunt had been doing it for almost 30 years. She was ready to quit. So I started doing it, and it was doing great. You know, started with about 4 or 5, and was getting almost 20 kids every Wednesday night. We were doing stuff on the weekends, helping a lot of kids out. You know, God was moving. And then little by little, you know, I started drinking on the weekends again. 1 or 2, it ain't that bad. Nobody else knows, just me. And whoever I was drinking with, I ain't gonna tell anybody. And things started to go wrong with youth group in that church. You know, me and Liz were staying at my mama's together, you know, for a little while, and then I decided it was time to be a big boy at, you know, 26, 27 years old, and get my own apartment, and moved out. And Liz was in school at the time, so every other weekend when she'd come down, she'd come stay at the apartment with me. And one of the deacons at the church, you know, saw some post on Facebook and raised a big stink in the church. And I hadn't been teaching the youth in a while because I had to work. on Wednesday nights to pay for the apartment, but they had asked me, my aunt and the other lady I grew up with, asked me if I'd do the college and careers class. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, when they found out about Liz coming to stay with me on the weekends, they called us in the office, to talk to us. And told us we were doing wrong, and you can't teach that class while you're doing wrong, and you don't need to be in the choir anymore. And I know you've been helping your mama in her Sunday school class. You don't need to be doing that either. So we don't want to lead nobody astray. And at the time, I was taking some mood stabilizers. Because I was in constant pain. My brain was messed up, and I just sat there, non-moving, non-clenching, just whatever. And I can't believe you had the deacon's son never wanted to touch his Bible, and because of you now he does. And this kid's doing so much better, but if you're doing all this, that's you're just setting the wrong example. But whatever. We can agree to disagree, that's fine. I just won't do those things. And at the time, I couldn't really feel anything because the medicine I was on, like I said, it was just, whatever. But I started to get kind of bitter about it. And it was just the things that they had said, kind of started repeating it to myself in my head. I'm the one that got him reading the Bible. I'm the one that helped that kid out. I'm the one that opened up my doors on the weekends for them kids to come if they wanted to skip out on a party and come do something, based on God. I'm the one that started this Bible study. I'm the one that did this. Arrogance just kind of oozed out of every pore of my body. It was God. I was there. But God was the one using me to do all that. And then, as I got into recovery, I realized, God took me away from that because at the time, like I said, I was starting back drinking again. Sooner or later, I was going to be a stumbling block to one of them kids. Because a lot of them came from that lifestyle too. And I was going to drag them right back into it. God took me out of it. But then the other thing I realized was, through all that, I started going to Heritage and met up with Brian on the recovery program. We was one day away from divorce at the time, because I was on and off again quitting, all Liz is mad at me, I guess I better quit. Well, there she is mad at me again, I'll quit for a little bit. And then finally got to the point where I was like, you're doing the same thing my dad did. I was like, I gotta do something, I gotta fix this. And I started recovery as, honestly, kind of a way to stick it to Liz. I'm going to recovery, here's my ship. You gotta listen to me now, I'm serious. But honestly, man, it took me probably 6 months of recovery to actually fully start to actually try to be sober, try to fix myself. And it was, through all this that, I started to grow. Then I hit about year 2, and it's kind of felt like I plateaued. I'm not really growing. I'm just sitting there, what's going on? Like, I'm not drinking anymore. Don't do drugs no more. I got a little anger problem, but I ain't doing none of that bad stuff. What's going on? Why ain't I getting better? My mind was fractured. And it was one thing, at that time we were doing sober recovery, had the self-inventory. I read this Psalm 139, 23 and 24, from David, search me, O God, know my heart, test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. I prayed that prayer, and I was finally serious about it. And I realized, it's like, I kind of did this as an example so y'all understand what I'm talking about. Kind of like this, it's white, it's clean, it's all good on the inside or outside, but then you take it away, you still got all this dirt and filth inside. Still had all that anger, that pain, anxiety, the weakness, the depression, the rage from everything that had happened in my life that I had to release, that I had to get rid of. And year two, I started working on that, and I did pretty good with it. And, things were going along great, I was starting to make some headway. And then I get a call from Liz, bawling her eyes out at work. I'm like, what's going on? And I can't talk. Just, well, where are you at? I'm at my mom's. All right, I'm coming. Told my boss, I gotta leave. I don't know what's going on. Liz won't tell me, and she's bawling her eyes out. I gotta go. And got over to her mom's house, and it was the, diagnosis we gave her. HLHS. I'm like, what's that? It's left side of his heart included. Okay, what's that mean? And she hands me a bunch of papers and notes and stuff, and I'm sitting there trying to read it, I'm also trying to listen, and I'm trying to, it just ain't sinking in. So at the time, I was like, oh, whatever, God's got it. We gotta do surgery, God's got it. No problem. I did good with that. Fine, God's got it. Got everybody praying for us, God's got it. Then come December, and it's time to go. We go up for her last appointment. Water's too low. Boom, time to have the baby. All right, whoop. God's got it. God's got it. We get in there. Overnight, night comes, morning comes. First thing in the morning, hey, natural ain't gonna work. We gotta do C-section. What? We gotta do what? I'm trying to keep a calm face. I'm trying to be strong for her. But we get in there, they make me sit outside while they're getting everything prepped. I see all these people going around washing their hands, doing the whole doctor thing, don't touch anything, keep your door open. They're talking, hey, how's it going? It's going. I kind of like being there. Oh yeah, just be another minute. Lady comes out, hey, where's my wife? Can I go in there? Oh yeah, just be another minute. And it felt like 2 hours I was sitting out there, but it was only like maybe 5 minutes. They bring me in there, they got the table going, they got the little curtain up. So when I sit down by Liz, I ain't looking this way, I ain't looking that way, I'm looking at her. I don't want to see this. So they get through with, they're right almost done with the operation, and the anesthesiologist is like, you want to take some pictures? Yeah, sure. Didn't think nothing about it. I'm in a full-on jumpsuit. I got zipped up. Basically gloves on, foot slippers on, hat on. Oh yeah, of course I want to take pictures. Like, you just tell me when. Like, oh, he's about to come out. What? I'm trying to get in and get the phone out, and it's like, take the picture. I'm like, I don't got my phone. So he comes out, and they get him over there, start cleaning him up. And then I've got my phone out, and like, I go over there and take the pictures, and turn around. Whoop, turn this way. Don't want to see that. Just through all that, we finally get to see Gabriel. He's kind of purple, color's a little off. I mean, he cries a little bit, but he's just sitting there. And at the same time, I said, I'm still, it's fine. God's got this. See, he came out fine. They got him hooked up to all my IVs fine. God's got it. Then we get through with the first surgery. Surgeon tells us it's going to be 2 weeks. Get to go home about 2 weeks should be fine. Okay, cool. We'll be home by Christmas. Christmas comes and goes, so it's going to be a little bit longer. And it just kept going. A little longer, a little longer, a little longer. At this time, he's in step-down room finally again, and I'm up there with him, throughout the week and going home on the weekends most of the time. And then we get to that point where I've been up there all week, go home for 1 day. Liz calls me, freaking out. What's wrong? They had to rush him back to ICU. Why? His heart rate came up, went down, and he went limp. What? He was fine when I left. What happened? I don't know. They don't know. So her friend rushes me up to the hospital because I can't drive. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get up there. Luckily her friend was like, I'll take you. Okay, cool. So we almost lost it. He's back in the ICU. We're stuck in there until second surgery. We go up there one day and we're standing around. All of a sudden it's like he's got 15 people around him. Everything's dropping. He's turning funny colors. You know, they're freaking out. I'm like, why are they freaking out? What's going on? And I'm texting Gene, like, hey man, make prayers, please pray now. Almost lost him again. I'm like, God, this was supposed to be easy. You know, I felt it when we were talking. You know, you told me you got this. You know, it's supposed to be easy. Not like this. You know, not almost losing my son twice that we've waited 4 years for you to give us. It ain't supposed to be this hard. And I started getting a little bitter again. And there was a couple times I was at the hospital and I'm just like stressed out, so angry, just because of everything going on. I'm just like, man, I'd love a beer right now. I'd do the things to take the edge off a little bit. And it's like, well, you're in the hospital. You can't drive. So suck it up, Buttercup. So luckily I didn't relapse. You know, it was a God-given thing, I didn't relapse. But then he made it through his second surgery, and you know, we finally got to bring him home, got to bring him in to meet everybody. And man, it's been a roller coaster of a ride. I mean, there's times I was, like I said, I was bitter, I was angry. It's just like, waited 4 years for this, and you putting us through all of this stuff. Like, why? I don't understand. Like, what did I do wrong? I mean, what did I do wrong? You know, teaching Sunday school, going twice a week to recovery. I'm a leader in both of them at the time. I'm like, what else do I got to do to get my boy home? What else I got to do? I can't be much better of a servant. I still had all this inside me. Still had all that going on. And my growth just stopped. And it wasn't until we started coming back, and I started able to finally start coming back on Thursdays. You know, that's why I named my Sunday school class the Growing Up. So it's like, we're just going to talk about growth. Like, we're going to help each other grow. Like, we're talking about making disciples. You know, love God, love people. You know, we're making disciples here. Like, I just want to grow. I want to keep growing. And that's one thing I've been doing. You know, God's hit me with some heavy stuff. This past week was real hard. You know, I ended up blowing up at my wife because I took the anger I felt from finally reconciling with what happened to me and blew up on my wife. I mean, I told her, it was like, I apologize. I'm sorry. You know, I kind of meant what I said when I said it, but I didn't mean to do it that way. And we went over, you know, we know all the fair fighting rules. We know this and that. Like, I should not have done it that way, and I'm sorry. Like, can't take it back, but I apologize. And I'll do better. And that's been most of my life. I got one more verse real quick. I know we're running out. It's Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. That hit me pretty hard when I read that. So, I mean, that's exactly what this is here. You know, it's a crowd of witnesses. You know, we're here every week to witness growth, witness faith starting. I was up here cleaning the carpets today. You know, and I like to use, you know, I use things from my life. You know, that's how God speaks to me. I was up here cleaning the carpets, and you know, there's a few stains in here, over here. But I noticed something, and it was kind of funny to me. I was like, when I was sitting up here in front of the altar and on the sides, you know, that's where the nastiest stuff was. I was thinking, I was like, man, why is it so nasty up here in the front? I'm like, everybody walks that way. Like, that's where all the grass and stuff is back there. That's where everybody walks in from coming outside. Why is it so dirty up here? And then God spoke to me, and it was weird. I hadn't felt like this in a long time, and it wasn't an actual voice, but I just felt it inside. It's dirtiest up here because this is where the release happens. This is where all this comes out. You know, it comes out up here on the altar. And you know, I had Gabriel up here. He was practicing for his stage time. Didn't have no guitar to play with yet, but he was playing, and I just looked at him and everything that had happened, since Tuesday. Like I said, how I blew up, I just dropped down right here, and I was finally able to release all that heavy stuff. I'm still working on it, getting better day by day, or trying to at least, but,